don't know what you're saying.
Yes, I do. I know exactly what I'm saying, and if it is sedition, then I am guilty of sedition.
In the 1990s, Madeleine Stowe was everywhere. From The Last of the Mohicans to 12 Monkeys, she was one of Hollywood's most captivating leading ladies. Then, at the height of her career, she essentially disappeared. Today, we'll discuss her best roles and why one of the biggest stars of the 90s chose to walk away from it all. Let's fade to black. Madeleine Stowe was born in Los Angeles to an interesting family background. Her early life and beginnings, mother came from a prominent political family in Costa Rica, and one of her maternal great-great-grandfathers, Bruno Carranza, actually served as president of Costa Rica. Her father had Dutch, German, and English ancestry from Oregon. Growing up in Eagle Rock, a working-class neighborhood of Los Angeles, Stowe found her first passion in music. At age 10, she began training as a concert pianist, practicing for hours every day. This was her dream until tragedy struck in 1976 when her instructor died. It was a devastating loss that caused her to more or less quit playing. But this ending led to a new beginning. She went to the University of Southern California studying cinema and journalism. In 1980, she appeared in an episode of Little House on the Prairie called Portrait of Love, playing a blind painter named Annie Crane. She made a few other appearances in TV and film, but nothing that really made her stand out yet. Stakeout. Then came 1987 and Steak Out. This comedy action film starring Stowe opposite Richard Dreyfuss and Alios was about two police officers conducting surveillance who both fall for the same woman, Maria, played by Stowe. The film was a commercial hit, grossing over $100 million worldwide. And it did something crucial. It proved Madeleine Stowe could carry a major studio film. She wasn't just beautiful, she had charisma, comedic timing, and a screen presence that made audiences want to watch her. This was her breakthrough, and Hollywood took notice. In 1989, she appeared in Worth Inning, a worth-winning romantic comedy where she played Veronica Briscoe, a demanding intellectual and classical pianist opposite Mark Harmon. That same year, Revenge Brought Revenge with Kevin Costner, a romantic thriller set in Mexico. The Two Jakes. Then in 1990, she starred in The Two Jake opposite Jack Nicholson, playing Lillian Bodie in the sequel to the classic Chinatown, a complex neon noir about adultery, murder, and the oil business in post-war Los Angeles. She also appeared in 1991's Closetland, and Closetland intense two-character psychological drama opposite Alan Rickman, where she played a children's book author accused of embedding subversive messages in her work. She appeared in Unlawful Entry, an unlawful entry psychological thriller that became one of the defining films of the early 90s paranoia genre. Stowe played Karen Carr, who along with her husband Michael, played by Kurt Russell, experiences a home invasion that sets off a nightmare they couldn't have anticipated. The film was a commercial success, grossing over $57 million against a $23 million budget. And what made it work was the chemistry, or deliberately uncomfortable lack thereof, between the three leads. The Last of the Mohicans, but the role that would truly define her career came in 1992 with Last of the Mohicans. Directed by Michael Mann and starring Daniel Day-Lewis, this wasn't just another period piece. It was an epic historical romance set during the French and Indian War in 1757. Stowe played Cora Monroe, the eldest daughter of a British colonel who falls in love with Hawkeye, a white man raised by Mohicans. The film was visually stunning, emotionally powerful, and became a massive critical and commercial success. The chemistry between Stowe and Daniel Day-Lewis was electric, and their final scene together where Hawkeye tells Cora, "You stay alive no matter what occurs, I will find you," became one of the most romantic moments in 1990 cinema. 1993 brought Shortcuts. Robert Altman's Shortcuts ambitious ensemble drama exploring the interconnected lives of several Los Angeles residents. Working alongside an incredible cast, Stowe held her own in a film that was more about character and atmosphere than plot. It was a departure from her more mainstream work and showed she could handle complex artistic material. 1994's Blink gave Stowe her first true Blink leading role in a major thriller. She played Emma Brody, a blind Irish folk musician who regains partial sight through a corneal transplant only to witness a murder. The film, directed by Michael Apted and co-starring Aidan Quinn, explored a fascinating concept. Emma suffers from retroactive hallucination, meaning she sometimes doesn't process what she's seen until hours or days later. Roger Ebert praised the film as an uncommonly good thriller, noting how Stowe brought an independent toughness to a character who could have been just another trembling victim. China Moon that same year brought China Moon, a more mystery where Stowe played the classic femme fatale opposite Ed Harris and Benicio del Toro in a sultry tale of obsession and murder set in small-town Florida that recalled films like Body Heat. Then came 12 Monkeys in 1995. The 12 Monkeys Terry Gilliam directed sci-fi thriller that really cemented her status as a major star. Playing Dr. Catherine, a psychiatrist who becomes entangled with a time traveler played by Bruce Willis, Stowe delivered what many consider her finest performance. The film required her to be skeptical, compassionate, terrified, and ultimately heroic, all while holding her own against Bruce Willis and a scene-stealing Brad Pitt, who earned an Oscar nomination for his role. By the mid-1990s, Madeleine Stowe wasn't just a working actress. She was a genuine movie star. In 1995, Empire magazine named her one of the 100 sexiest stars in film history. In 2012, People magazine ranked her number 5 in their most beautiful women of the world list. But behind the glamorous facade, Stowe was growing increasingly uncomfortable with aspects of her career, particularly the nude scenes in films. She revealed something telling. It was never the kind of situation where anybody said, "You have to do this or you won't make this film." No, I was always a very willing participant because it seemed sort of meaningless. But it's become much more personal, and it reminds me how dispensable women are. This quote reveals a shift in her perspective. What once seemed like just part of the job began to feel more problematic as she matured and gained perspective on the industry. She elaborated further on her growing disillusionment. While it was nice working with a lot of these people, ultimately it was unsatisfying to play a victim, and I realized I couldn't do it anymore. It had to stop. Here was one of Hollywood's biggest stars in the 90s, someone who could have continued commanding major roles and substantial paychecks, saying that playing victims had become so unsatisfying. She just couldn't continue. What I'm really interested in is erratic behavior. The world is so crazy that lately I've been observing the inconsistencies in people. That's one of the things that is so lacking in women's roles, that you're not allowed to be inconsistent. This observation cuts to the heart of a fundamental problem in Hollywood. Women's characters are often written as one-dimensional, lacking the complexity and contradictions that make real people interesting. Male characters get to be complicated, flawed, and unpredictable. Women too often get to be the girlfriend, the victim, or the prize with no real actual character arc. While her career concerns were growing, Stowe had also built a life outside of Hollywood that mattered more to her than